Hi guys, you might already know me from my blog anxietymama.com, or you might be new to my channel, but I thought that I would do a little introduction video about my disorder because I haven't actually done that yet. So hi, I'm Lauren and I have an anxiety disorder. I didn't always have problems with anxiety. I had pretty bad depression as a teenager, but anxiety didn't really come into it very much. When I was about 19 or 20, my life really started to come together in good ways. Like, I had a job that I loved, I had a boyfriend that I loved, I had heaps of good friends, I was traveling a lot, I was just keeping busy and doing lots of fun things and really sort of, just doing everything a young adult should be doing and really enjoying life and having a good time. And then this continued for a couple of years. I was just sort of doing my thing, and then when I was 23 years old, I think 22 or 23, I had my first panic attack. And it was my first day of work at a new job, but I knew the owners, I knew most of the customers, I'd worked nearby for years, so I was probably the least nervous I've ever been to start a job. So I showed up to work on my first day, I was like all ready to go, and then out of nowhere I just suddenly felt really, really weird, like I was gonna faint or throw up, or I just felt strange. And I went to the bathroom and I was looking in the mirror and all the color drained out of my face, and I was like, man, I must be really sick or something. So I went home and then I came back again the next day to start my shift again, and the same thing happened again, and I suddenly was like, I'm gonna pass out. And I couldn't go home again. I obviously I had to work my first day eventually, so I ended up staying on, and eventually the feeling went away and I felt alright, but it was just such a weird thing that happened. I started to have these weird attacks more often, and I noticed that they were either when I was at work or when I was going to work or when I was sort of going somewhere, not that it was work, but you know what I mean, like somewhere important, like not when I was just going into bed or like going to watch a TV show. Anyway, I kept going about daily life, kept having these random attacks, and then I went overseas to Thailand on a holiday, and we were sort of like backpacking around, and that's when things got really, really bad, and I started getting these attacks all the time. And it got to the point by the end of the trip where we would check into a hotel and I would just end up staying there. Like, I wouldn't go out to the beach or go to the markets or go and explore because I was so scared that I'd have another one of these attacks. So this is when I started the classic avoidance behavior. When we got back that night, I ended up in the emergency room at the hospital because I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel my arms, I couldn't breathe. I honestly felt like I was dying. Like, I had no idea what was going on, but I just knew that something wasn't right. And yeah, it was really, really scary. And they ran all these tests and they didn't really seem too concerned. They were like, look, it might be a bug that you picked up overseas, or it could be this, it could be that. But I knew in my head that this had been going on for a long time. They sent me home and I ended up having all these tests done, like really invasive things. Like, I had a colonoscopy done, which was not fun. And all the tests came back negative. There was nothing wrong with me. I was in perfect health. Yeah, I was physically 100%, but mentally something wasn't right. And I knew that. I went to the doctors with my mum because she wanted to get an answer, because I'd gone from being this happy, confident young woman to being afraid, crying all the time, saying that there was something wrong with me and I just didn't feel right. And so we went to the doctor and I said to him, I feel like I'm dying. I was crying. I was like, I just want to know what's wrong with me. I just want an answer. And he said to me, you have anxiety, you have depression, and you're developing agoraphobia. And I remember at the time I was like, what is agoraphobia? I don't even know what that is. And yeah, that was it. He gave me a script for antidepressants and he said, we'll sort it out, don't worry. And I remember in the car on the way home, I was bawling my eyes out because I was saying to Mum, I spent so long being depressed and my life was finally starting to get good again. Like, why has this happened to me now? I don't understand. What have I done wrong? Why can't I just be happy? Why can't I be normal? Why do I always have to have something wrong with me? And it really just felt like a kick in the guts. Like, I'd been eating right, I'd been working out, I'd been doing all the right things, I'd been having fun. I just didn't understand why I would suddenly get an anxiety disorder out of the blue. From there, things just went from bad to worse, I guess. I figured out that when I left the house, I would have panic attacks. When I got in the car, I would have panic attacks. When I saw friends, when I worked, when I went out for lunch, when I went for a walk, when I did anything out of the house, I would have a panic attack. So I just started staying in the house. And life got really, really, really shit for a while. For like 2 years almost, I was housebound. And it really, really sucked. I missed out on so many important things, so many fun things. I just feel like I missed out on a lot of my life, on a lot of my mid-20s. All of my best friends, all their celebrations, their engagements, their weddings, their baby showers, their birthdays. I missed out on all those events. I always had to be like, no, I can't come, I don't feel well, I'm not up for it. And I also just felt like my life was passing me by and I wasn't involved in it in any way. I wasn't contributing in any way. I really felt like there wasn't a lot of point in being alive. I just felt like if I'm afraid to open the front door, then what is the point in being here? Like, I just didn't really understand what I could do to get better, because when I'd felt good, I got knocked down again anyway, so what was the point? And one of the hardest things is that anxiety is not something that you can get rid of. It's not something you can recover from, because you will always have anxiety. Anxiety is a perfectly normal response to a situation, or to certain situations, like a job interview or speaking in front of hundreds of people, or like, you know, your wedding day or something. Like, it's perfectly normal to feel anxious about certain things. So, you know, it's not something that's going to go away. They're not going to scan my body one day and be like, there's no anxiety in there, you're all good to go. So knowing that I'm never going to be rid of it, and especially when you Google your symptoms and you read stories from people who are like, I've been agoraphobic for, 20 years now and I haven't left the house in this long, and you think, I'm never going to get better from this. My life is always going to be terrible. And it really just makes you want to give up. And that's how I felt for a long, long, long time. The problem with having anxiety is that I think people don't realize how crippling it is, because there's so many different types of anxieties, like generalized anxiety, social phobias, agoraphobia, panic disorder, specific phobias. There's like lots of different levels of anxiety. And there are so many people that function on quite a high level with anxiety. So for people who don't have it, they just kind of assume that it's like a little bit of nerves. That's sort of what I thought it was before I had anxiety. I just thought, oh, people get a little bit nervous and a little bit afraid, which is so far from what it actually is. It's like, imagine if someone put you in a lion's den with 5 hungry lions and strapped stakes to your body, and then told you not to be afraid. Like, you would be shitting yourself. You would be so afraid. Your body would go into fight or flight, you wouldn't be able to breathe, you'd probably go numb, you'd be in like a blind panic. And that's what happens to me every time I get in the car. My body sends me this signal of, you're in imminent danger, and even though it's an inappropriate time for me to have that response, it doesn't make it any less real. My body thinks I'm in a lion's den, like I'm gonna die in my head, and it's absolutely cripplingly terrifying. And I think that's the hardest thing to understand for people who don't suffer from it, or it's the hardest thing to explain. And the worst thing you can do to someone with anxiety is say to them, just relax, just get over it, it's just anxiety, just try and breathe, just try and relax. Because that doesn't help. If I said that to you when there was like a lion gnawing on your head, just relax, it's all good, just go with it, it's just a lion, you'd be like, I don't know, you'd probably be dead because a lion would be gnawing on you. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's so impossible for you to relax in that situation, because your body is flooded with adrenaline, and every part of your body is getting you ready to run or to fight. And so you can't rationally say, oh yeah, I should just relax right now, I should just calm down, because your body doesn't care. Your body's like, get the hell out of here. So I guess that's like a pet hate of people with anxiety, is people just telling them, just don't worry about it so much, just chill. A few things that have helped my anxiety a lot I ended up finding a medication eventually that really worked for me. I spent a long time thinking that medication wasn't the answer, and in some respects I still question whether or not it's the answer, but there was a point in time where I desperately needed saving, and medication did that for me. Another thing I did was reached out and got help. I spoke to a therapist, I went to see a psychiatrist, I reached out for help on forums, on social media. I've written a blog about having an anxiety disorder, and I reach out to people through that, and people reach out to me, and so I'm very, very vocal about what I suffer with. And actually I was surprised when I eventually worked up the courage to come out and say, hey, I'm suffering with an anxiety disorder. How many of my friends and people I know said, hey, I have that too. I had no idea that there were so many people that suffered with this, and it just blew my mind at how many people were either like, I suffer from it too, or people were like, we're here for you. So I was so scared that going public with my disorder was going to be met with embarrassment. I thought I'd be embarrassed that everyone knew, and people would be like, oh, Lauren's got so many problems, poor her. But people were just really nice, really supportive, really encouraging, and I think this has in a lot of ways given me more faith in humans in general and in my friends. Not that I didn't have faith in them in the first place, but it's made me understand that the more we support each other and the more we're there for each other, the stronger we are as people. It's so much easier to do something when you know that there's a bunch of people behind you cheering you on. I think in some ways, even though it sounds really stupid, this anxiety disorder is one of the best things that happened to me, because I had to change my life in a lot of good ways, and my life doesn't look the way I pictured it would look at 27 years old, but I'm a stronger person because of my anxiety. I'm more empathetic because of my anxiety. I'm also a bit softer because of my anxiety, and I know that I'm capable of a lot more than I gave myself credit for. And also I'm learning to trust in life, trust in my journey, trust in the path that I'm on, trust in other people, and trust in myself. And I'm learning to be a lot nicer to myself as well. If you're struggling with an anxiety disorder and you feel isolated and you feel alone, you're not alone. There's so many people you can reach out to get help. Comment down below if you want to. I'm ready to help you and to just give you support. That's pretty much all I can offer. I'm not qualified in any way to give you any other kind of help, but I'm always happy to support people and to talk. You don't have to be alone with an anxiety disorder. You don't have to feel like you're the only one going through it. You don't have to feel like you're some kind of freak and everyone else is normal. And like, what is normal anyway? I think everyone has some weird quirk about them, and that's what makes us all individuals, and that's what makes us all human, and that's what makes us all different. Everybody on this planet is fighting against something and fighting their own personal battle, and yeah, don't feel alone with an anxiety disorder. If you want to know more about my story, you can head on over to my blog. I'll put the link in the description box below. I talk about anxiety disorder a lot. I talk about exposure sessions. I talk about how I manage my panic attacks, and just basically how I go about life with an anxiety disorder. And don't be afraid, like I said, to reach out and get help if you're struggling, if you're feeling like you're alone. You are not alone. There are hundreds of millions of billions of people in the world suffering from an anxiety disorder. And there are lots of people who are managing it every day and know how to help you. So don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't let your anxiety disorder run your life anymore. I kind of feel a bit conflicted saying that because I still do sometimes, but every day I am learning how to get stronger and learning how to get better and learning how to not be so afraid of my anxiety. But the first part of that journey is starting to try and manage your anxiety, starting to overcome it, just trying to overcome it. Don't let it predict how you're going to live your life. Don't let it be the thing that stops you from doing things. Fight against it. Find out how strong you are. Find out that you can overcome this. We can all do it together. I'll be here. Watch my videos, subscribe, and we'll tackle it together. Thanks for watching, and yeah, I really hope I didn't give anyone a panic attack watching this video.